KNUS Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Colorado may be blue, America red, but it all meets right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, where we invite you to be a part of the conversation, because unlike those other shows, this isn't just a monologue. We want to have the debate here and broadcast it across the entire city of Denver, Colorado. I point this out because oftentimes people are like, Jeff, your clips on social media, especially when you're interviewing those progressives downtown, you're not necessarily being fair. You're not posting the whole discussion. And I'm like, hey, I literally have a talk radio show where you can call in. You can tell me I'm a doofus. And the whole city of Colorado will hear about it. So here's the phone number. Give me a call. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Again, 720-819-5115. My podcast with CityCast, which is not a progressive outlet.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It turned out really well. It got spicy.
Good.
Because Bree, who was interviewing me, is a witch, which I didn't know.
How did that come up? How did that come up? That's a weird one.
It didn't.
In all the conversation.
Yeah, it came up randomly, kind of towards the second, third half of the.
Okay, now I'm super curious. How we get to a witch in the conversation?
Yeah.
This is cool.
We were. Oh gosh, how did we get there? The run up to it, I don't know, but she reveals that she's a Catholic witch. Yeah. And then I go...
Now, again, when I was a kid, those were called nuns. Because they would curse you. Yes, they would. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're Catholic. I'll let you take the brunt of that one.
I can take the brunt of that one. Believe me.
So it comes up in the conversation. I go, honestly, in my response, you're a witch. She's like, yeah. And I go, well, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Oh, that's great.
And she's now on my prayer list, of course. But though it got really spicy, like between you and I. But Bill, because I do this every day with you, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, bro, I can take it. Take it. Give it to. If you can handle Bill Thorpe, man, you can handle anything.
Yeah, I'm going to come harder than most interviewers you're going to see. So, yeah, I'm pushing harder than anybody else out there. Right. Yeah, you're going to be just fine.
So, it's a great conversation about my interviews because progressives, they've now figured out I do these interviews.
Yeah,
and they're
fantastic.
Not such big fans of it.
That's okay. They'll get over it.
They call them gotcha interviews.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting any words in anyone's mouths.
No.
I'm just revealing their stupidity. I'm not making them look stupid.
No,
I'm revealing their stupidity.
You're just giving them the opportunity and standing back, and let's see what happens. I've talked about this before. There's a friend who actually still lives in town, going through high school and college, that when we were out drinking was highly suggestible. And we got him to do some very strange things. So that's all. So that's okay. There are times that you just kind of, step back and you watch and see what happens. So not necessarily responsible. It's like people make their own choices, but you just stand back and now we get to record them. So yeah.
But if you want to watch me or listen to me and a progressive liberal activist debate the videos we do down at the Colorado State Capitol in these anti-Trump protests, it's a great conversation. It's entertaining, fun. It's over at CityCast. Check them out. They're good people, and I appreciate them having me on because most Democrats don't want to have anything to do with us.
No, not at all.
Hence, Lauren Boebert's Democrat opponent who acts like we don't even exist.
Yeah.
We're the top talk radio show in our district. And we will have a fun conversation.
Yes, we will.
And people will actually learn to pronounce your name.
Yes.
Tricia Calaverse.
I don't know. If she comes on, we'll worry about it. But until then, I'm not that worried about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of coming on the show, we've got Jeff Crank later
we do.
in the 7 o'clock hour. Jake Crank, live in studio. He'll be joining us. So this will be a good conversation. Looking forward to him. We've got a lot to talk about. Mike Lindell's verdict. Joey Chestnut back in the game this July 4th.
Yes,
I'm
he needs
very
more
excited
nitrates.
about that.
Yes. I'm back, baby.
Are self-deportations working? And then who's leading the primary in the Democrat Party for the governor of Colorado? Ooh. It's not going to surprise you. Because Democrats in Colorado love old white guys.
Yeah. And the other part is that once you hear who's leading the Democrat primary, given the lay of the land, and what I mean by that is the GOP is third tail Charlie on voter registration. Understand you have the smallest constituency in the state. Given that even if every R pulled the lever for the Republican candidate, if everybody else voted somewhere else, you lose.
Oh, yeah.
So given who this person is that's ahead in the primary, who do you think is the best person on the Republican bench to defeat them? I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. If this is the perceived front runner at this moment, and we'll talk about that later, who do you then choose to go against them? You have an opportunity to select someone specifically for this target. When you have a governor that's leaving, you don't often get this because the other party has to run through a primary. When they're an incumbent, you can see who the target is. This time, you have a brand new target without the benefit of incumbency. Can you take advantage? So that'll be some of the conversation later today.
Yep, and it's not Phil Weiser. Poor Phil may be at the end of his political career.
Yes. And will he try to revive it? I mean, that's the other thing, too, is if inside of the primary right now, if someone's in second, third, or fourth place, what do they do to get back into that first position?
Phil Weiser may be eyeing Judicial District 23.
Yeah, exactly. Nice one. Shout out George Brockler.
George around.
It's like,
he tries to take jobs from George.
Exactly. I beat him last time. How can I? Yes. Yes. It's like when you know the one person on the pickup basketball game you can beat. Like, I'm just going to wait till it's his rotation. Then I'll ask to join the team.
All right, we got a lot this morning. Now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good Tuesday morning. 60 and mostly cloudy. There was some rain earlier up and down the Front Range. Expecting a high of 74 today in Denver. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Hey, Stephen, why are you leaving the G7 early for Washington?
Well, I have to be back. Very important. I want to just thank our great host. He did a fantastic job. Thank you. In Canada. But you probably see what I see. And I have to be back as soon as I can.
DJT left the G7 summit in Canada early and returned to the States this morning. He left to deal, of course, with the growing conflict between Israel and Iran. He's expected to meet with his National Security Council today. Here's Pete Hegseth.
America First means we're going to defend American personnel and American interests. So when you see jets and you see air defense assets and counter UAS assets, that's because my job as the Secretary of Defense is to ensure that our people are safe and that we're strong so that we can set the conditions for a deal. And President Trump's made it clear it's on the table. The question is whether Iran will take it.
And remember, here's what 47 said a few weeks ago on how he's approaching this.
I hate to do it, but you have to do it because we believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength, otherwise bad things could happen. But hopefully, we'll never have to use any of those weapons. Seems to be an awfully big waste of money if you're never going to use them, but hopefully we'll never have to use them because the destructive power of some of those weapons are like nobody's seen before. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. That's what I really want to do.
Police in Aurora investigating a shooting that critically wounded a 3-year-old boy. Police say the boy was shot at an apartment complex near East Center Point Drive Monday morning. The boy's mother told police she heard a gunshot in the house and then found her wounded son. He was taken to urgent care and then transferred to a local children's hospital. Investigators don't believe the wound was self-inflicted. A federal jury in Denver has ruled MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell must pay over $2 million in damages for defamation. Jurors say Lindell and his media company Frank's Speech made reckless claims about Dominion voting systems. Executive Eric Coomer, after the 2020 election, Coomer sued, saying Lindell called him treasonous and caused emotional distress. Vance Bolter is being charged in federal and state court over the murder of Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. Bolter appeared in federal court Monday charged with multiple crimes, including murder with a firearm. He also faces multiple counts of second-degree intentional murder and attempted murder in state court, where a Minnesota judge ordered Bolter's bail to be set at $5 million. California lawmakers push for more transparency from law enforcement today. There they go again, attacking the good guys, introducing a bill that would ban officers from hiding their faces with masks. Why protect the guys trying to restore the peace and keep the people safe, right? But the bill could face legal hurdles since federal agents don't fall under state law. The former Arkansas...
Reveal yourself! I mean, this is...
right.
Yeah, they're going to let Antifa guys run around with stupid little masks on. But
Sure.
God forbid ICE doesn't want retribution brought to their family.
Exactly.
This is
I saw
so
that
stupid.
and I wanted to vomit. By the way, I think that was a great interview, by the way. I listened to it, and I think she brought up a nose piercing or something like that, and that's how you got onto it. I'm like, she's a witch. What is going on here? It was a great interview, though. She needs to jump on the show.
She
ask her about it.
absolutely welcome to. It would be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's funny to watch progressives read my tweets back to me. I love it. I really seriously love it when you take my tweets and read them back to me and ask me to defend them.
That is fun.
It's one of my dreams. It's one of my dreams to be before a Senate confirmation committee. And have to go,
repeat your tweets.
Jeff, you've written now multiple times that women with nose piercings are ugly. Defend yourself. And that's what she did. She goes, our producer has noticed you've now written at least twice that nose rings are not attractive. And my response was, I'm an old school Republican, man. Girls and pearls are cute.
That was great.
That
was a great
bring back
response.
Barbara Bush. It's cute.
Oh man, she would have loved that. Yeah, I'm just perplexed. When she said that, I was like, oh man, I remember our daughter when she was a teenager, like going into college, she wanted to do that, and she did it for like 6 months or whatever. And I'm telling my wife, how do you blow your nose? I mean, what happens? What happens? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So then I started thinking about that all day, but I think that's where, how you got onto the witch thing, I think, or that may have been right after it, but that's great. That was a great interview. I loved it. Yeah, she's got to jump on, man. She needs to come on the show. All right, the former Arkansas police chief, known as the, speaking of which, is the devil in the Ozarks, is set to appear in court today after escaping from prison last month. Grant Harden faces a second-degree escape charge. Authorities caught him June 6th, just west of Calico Rock facility where he was serving time for murder and rape. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Thunder, they lead 3-2 after defeating the Pacers last night in OKC, 120-109 in the NBA Finals. Jalen Williams had 40 points. NHL Stanley Cup Finals tonight. Florida could win again for the second straight year. Game 6 this evening. 57 in Lone Tree, 56 in Lakewood, 60 in Denver. Jeff and Billy with no nose rings continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast, fair skies into the upper 50s for morning temps in the Denver, Colorado region. Then morning sun will give way to afternoon clouds Tuesday. Northerly winds will produce some moisture with scattered showers and thunderstorms likely in the afternoon. Highs going to be upper 70s, low 80s, low to mid 50s, and clear Tuesday night. Mid 80s, sunny and dry Wednesday, then getting to the middle and upper 90s Thursday and Friday. Weather brought to you by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather. Schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection at roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Dawn Watzel at the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. This from our friends over at the Denver Gazette. By the way, best newspaper in town.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Best newspaper in town.
Easily.
Get your subscription today to the Denver Gazette. Love these guys. Great opinion pieces. Fair, balanced coverage. It's what newspapers should be. Jury returns a verdict in MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell's Denver defamation trial.
That was quick.
It was quick.
Very quick.
Yeah, they finished on Friday.
Yeah.
And we got the verdict on Monday.
Yeah, and based on the questions that I saw the jury asked for clarification, this wasn't a long deliberation. They got to, yes, defamation fairly early. It was just a matter of how they were going to and who they were going to hold responsible. Yeah, this is interesting. But again,
so really, reading the verdict, to me, I hear the sound of a whoopee cushion losing its air.
In what way? Tell me. What do you mean?
So, well, let's read the verdict so people know.
Yeah.
MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell is liable for 2 statements defaming former Dominion Voting Systems executive Eric Coomer. Yeah. A federal jury decided Monday. Lindell owes Coomer $440,500 in combined economic and non-economic damages. The jury did not find that Lindell had acted recklessly and similarly did not find he inflicted emotional distress or participate in a civil conspiracy against Coomer. Lindell's company, Frank Speech, owes Coomer $1.8 million in combined economic, non-economic, and punitive damages. Lindell's company, MyPillow, wasn't found liable at all. Thankfully, the jury saw this for what it is. Coomer told the Denver Gazette, Mike Lindell not only hurt me With his baseless lies, he hurt the American people and the democratic process. Every major network who published this defamation has issued a retraction and an apology. Hopefully Mike Lindell, listening to the jury of his peers, will finally start being honest with his followers. I'm now one step closer to putting my life back together and thank the jury for their thoughtfulness and service. In total, Coomer is coming away with a fraction of what he asked for, a total of about $2.3 million as opposed to $62.7 million. Only $300,000 of that is in punitive damages, which are meant to punish a defendant and serve as an example to others. So the reason I say this sounds like a whoopee cushion losing air is I watched both sides of this, and I really didn't have a stake in this.
Yeah.
I watched one side, the kind of Kyle Clark side, cover this breathlessly with the hope that the maximum pain would be inflicted upon Mike Lindell as an effort to send a strong message that Mike Lindell is a terrible human being and deserves the maximum amount of punishment. I looked at the other side, which was going, Mike Lindell is this great freedom fighter. He deserves to be vindicated and, in fact, turn around and let's sue Eric Coomer into the ground type of thing, right? And in this case, what I think the jury probably rightfully came out with was, yeah, he's guilty, but we're not going to pile drive him into the ground and make him pay forever with a massive $62 million financial penalty. So it was both sides at the end of the day are kind of going, all right, I guess we're moving on at this point. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, this one I think is very important. The level of the verdict being lower did surprise me, but I didn't think there was any way, shape, or form they were going to come close to $60 million. I thought that it would be above 10. Personally, that surprised me. But I think that once the jury decided to separate MyPillow's assets from Mike Lindell's actions, and the fact that Frank's speech is worth a little bit more than the stale cookies we have in the vending machine here, just slightly more. That changed what the functionality of the money is. So that's kind of the idea. I do appreciate, what I really do appreciate is the jury seemed to get an achievable verdict. And what I mean by that is if the jury would have come out and said, we award him $60 million, there's no way.
Like they did against Alex Jones.
Yeah, there's no way that they'll ever get that. And that's why in the Alex Jones case, there are some other settlements that have happened. That's why The Onion came in and did a deal with some of the other defendants in the case in order to go after Alex Jones' assets. The only way they could do that, and it's still going through court, was to get their buy-in based on their share and their liability that is still there with Alex Jones. This seems very intelligent. It's not a huge verdict. It's not anything that, based on Mike Lindell's bank account, it will be tough, but it's not devastating financially to him. But it does set down the marked precedent that if he goes out and he says, again, Dominion has stolen the election, or Eric Coomer is a traitor or has done this and this and this, they have a previous ruling to point to and go back to court and say, he's doing it again, Judge. You got to find him again. We got to go get more money, Judge, because he's doing it again. That's the biggest win for Coomer here. The biggest loss is for, and if you were listening to the Peter Boyle show over the weekend, he pounded this one, and admirably so. The biggest loser are for all those people that bought into the idea the election was stolen. That's the biggest loss here, because Mike Lindell had the perfect opportunity to demonstrate that it was stolen, just like Fox News did, just like OAN did. And when it comes down, as Pete Boyle says, to nut cutting time on the ranch, they balk. They don't show up in court with all of the evidence that they say is prima facie proof. All the stuff that we've had on the text messages, all the stuff we've had in the phone calls, all the people that have called in and called people idiots for not understanding what was going on in the stolen election. Michael Lindell didn't present anything, not a single shred of what he claimed happened. And in fact, Coomer was able to bring up an expert that tore it apart. that said this is just a pack of lies. I mean, laughably so. Is this that bad? He had examined, the expert that Coomer brought up had examined some of Lindell's data and said this is a farce. It's not even a good fake. This takes a couple of layers to pull back until you realize this is a pile of trash. So that's the biggest thing here, is that the champion that said they had the proof didn't show up in court with the proof. So luckily, here in Colorado, a couple more people have a bite at the apple. A couple more people involved in this idea of the conspiracy and the election being stolen. They have shots as well because Eric Coomer is suing them as well. They can show up in court and provide their proof because it's an absolute defense. If they want to get out from underneath the possibility of $1 million judgment or even a several $100,000 judgment, all they have to do is provide the proof of what they claim to be true. That's it. And those verdicts evaporate. That nothing happens. Those lawsuits go away immediately because truth is an absolute defense here. That's important. On this one, I think it's a slap on the wrist to Lindell. And I do agree with the jury. As difficult as it is, emotionally, you want to tie the largest asset into this so you can get more money. You want to tie MyPillow in that. That's emotionally where if you think that Michael Lindell was going out and doing this purposely and lying, yeah, you want to. But was MyPillow necessarily responsible? No. Did MyPillow facilitate any of this? No, none of that at all. So I think the jury absolutely did a right thing in separating MyPillow from Frank's speech and Mike Lindell. I don't think this is going to slow anything down. I think it's going to stop anything based on the true believers. They're still going to go out there. But
here's a question I have for you. And I was watching
please.
Kyle Clark's coverage of this. He points out that a lot of people have just kind of lost interest at this point. We're 5 years removed from this. And if you remember, Democrats in every election prior to this, many times would often claim that the election was rigged and stolen if they lost. Pretty much, people lose and they go, the election was rigged and stolen. And Republicans did it in 2020. Others have done it previously. So we're 5 years removed from 2020, and even Kyle Clark going, no mainstream media seems to be even really covering this case. You end up with a $2 million verdict. Is it time to move on?
Yeah. See, I do believe that slowly people are moving on, but then again, ask the Tina Peters supporters about moving on. Ask Donald Trump, who's sitting there.
She's still sitting in jail,
but
so
what
it's
I did is
kind of hard for her to move on.
But I asked their supporters. That was my statement. Ask the supporters about moving on. They're not moving on. They're still trumpeting this. And just yesterday, we received a text message. It was either yesterday or over the weekend, a text message here about, the election being stolen is finally coming out because the DOJ has requested all that information from Jenna Griswold about our last election, not the 2021.
2024.
I know, but did that matter to the texter? No, not at all. They cited the 2024 and saying they did it for the 2024, and that was their proof that the 2020 election was stolen. So for those people, that functionally will not matter. And I understand what you're saying about both sides have claimed it. However, I would say that surrounding 2020, I can't find another example of Democrats going that far. That's the only
pushing
issue.
it that hard.
And it is,
right.
And it is at a totally different level. I mean, what happened inside of 2020 was far beyond any claims that any Democrats have made. However, and I will tell you, yes, both sides do make it. Right now, and we haven't talked about it here on the show, and it hasn't bubbled up, and I've been waiting for it to see if it'll bubble up somewhere. But there are small slivers of the liberal side of social media that is convinced there was a steal in 2024.
Oh, yeah. No, I've talked to him down at the state capitol during these protests.
Yep, and it's a small sliver, but it's not bubbling up. It's not
Pennsylvania,
becoming...
Elon Musk.
Yep, and they're talking about... And they're talking, again, it's talking about computers and computers being turned off and things like that. All the stuff, it's very similar to many of the computer claims that we had in 2020. And I've run across them, and I'm just going to hold my breath and say, I don't see anything. I've looked into several of the claims. I see nothing behind them at all. But I've been intrigued more on the lack of permeability. And what I mean by that is the story isn't gaining a lot of traction inside the liberal sphere. I haven't seen them grab onto
then
it.
Then they have to maybe admit some stuff about 2020.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. or just realize the idea that if we claim it right now and all the stuff that I saw claimed in 2020 was a lie, am I falling victim to the same type of lie? Is this the same confirmation bias that I accuse the Republicans of? Am I just repeating the same mistakes I argued that my enemies did 4 years ago? So I think that's what's slowing it down. I haven't seen anything as far as any proof, but it's interesting to see that that's where we are now. Just like we now have to say, oh, it's a Trump-appointed judge. It's a Reagan-appointed judge. Now every election is stolen. Yeah, that's where we are.
And it all depends on the Secretary of State. But I think you can still critique the election process. So, for instance, in Colorado, we carpet bomb the entire state with the ballots and then just hope that they get back in and signature verification and that type of thing. And then anytime a Republican's like, well, let's try to do voter ID to do, no, we're not going to do that. So you can look at the elections and go, the rules in each state as they're written, absolutely seeks to benefit one side or the other. And so to critique that, I think it's always fair game.
Yeah, I understand the idea that it seems to benefit one side versus the other, but that to me is just complaining about the rules. That's an NFL team complaining that the kickoff rule was changed. That the rules have changed, and so.
But the rules matter.
But complaining about the idea that the other team has an advantage because the rules are changed, I just disagree. The rules the rules sit for both. I
definitely disagree with that.
I understand, but the rule when both teams have to play under the rules, that's it. That's all. And so that's the idea behind it.
The rules are determined by elected officials.
Yeah.
And so it's not like there's some nonpartisan operation out there that comes up with the rules.
But the rules in the NFL are determined by the owners of the team. There's not a nonpartisan body that is deciding what the NFL rules should be. The refs don't get to choose. It's the NFL owners that vote on it. So they are 100. That's why I use the NFL as an example. It's 110% partisan. Absolutely, it is. And so that's it. But they all play under the same rules. The Cincinnati Bengals may not like the fact that they may not have the votes.
I don't know if you can say we play under the same rules in America.
Sure you do.
No, it's some states require ID, other states don't.
I know, but from state to state, you play under the same rules. So that state has made the choice. State to state, you play under the same rules. Yes,
right.
And they affect both parties. It's not like they say. It's not like they say ballot boxes are only for Democrat votes.
Yeah. But watch how Democrats respond when you try to bring voter ID in. I mean, it is like. They will go to the mat.
I understand, and
to try to block that. I mean, it's not even like an intellectual disagreement with them. It is they know that if the rules of the elections change, they lose.
I think that's very loaded. How do you know that if the rules of the election change? So you think if we went to voter ID in Colorado, this would all of a sudden be a Republican state?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay, how do you get to that conclusion based on voter registration?
Look where we have voter ID requirements and look how they vote.
No, but what I'm asking, are the voter ID requirements in conservative areas based on where they vote? That would be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. What I'm asking for is inside of a large blue state like this, given the breakdown of our registration, if we went to voter ID, do you still believe that the most votes would be accumulated by the smallest political party based on registration? Is that what we assume is going to happen if we went to voter ID?
It's a good question. I don't think we really know, because once you become a blue state, like a serious blue state, like California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Colorado, nobody's gone back and said, let's do voter ID. It's like they get more and more open and more, ballot harvesting, mass mailing, automatic voter registration. It goes down the progressive voting world. But the point I'm bringing up, though, is that the rules do matter. And both teams understand this. And that's why they fight like hell to make sure that the rules favor them. And that critique's going to continue to go, whether or not you believe, and I've never seen any evidence of this, right? So I always think there's been two different conversations happening, and they're all loaded into the same thing. One, that Dominion was somehow, adjusting the scoreboard. Let's go back to the NFL. No evidence I've seen of that.
Yeah,
none of that. Right? But then you have the huge debate that takes place about the rules around the election and how those impact, and where you have voter ID laws, Republicans tend to win. Where you have ballot harvesting and mass ballot mailing, Democrats tend to win. So, to me, seems like the rules really matter.
I would submit that that's a self-fulfilling prophecy because most areas in which I know have voter ID laws are already conservative. And when you talk about the ballots harvesting, most of those are already liberal. So to me, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. It doesn't mean
have
that
you ever
one
seen one switch?
Shows another.
In either way, where we have voter ID laws, all of a sudden now Democrats are winning in any election, or where we had ballot harvesting, now Republicans start to win.
I have a hard time seeing it flip necessarily either way, that somehow we've instituted a voter ID law. And what I'm looking at is, for me, the voter ID law, and again, I'm not against a voter ID law, but I believe it's a magic bullet that has been given way too much credit. One, because of the functionality, as if we're going to get a voter ID and everything's going to be fine. For me, it's a solution in search of a problem. I haven't seen that we are losing elections, and by losing, I mean fraudulent. I mean, I haven't seen fraudulent participation in elections on a level that would change based on a lack of voter ID. So if we bring in voter ID, there's an assumption that all of a sudden this will change. There will be fewer votes that will be counted. That has been proven. But the idea that it will change how the electorate feels, I disagree. I haven't seen that proven. And what I'm looking at is the argument is if we have voter ID laws, we're going to have fewer people voting. That's hard for me also to talk about the idea that in America, what we need to do is make sure that fewer people are voting. That's hard for me to wrap my head around, that we need to constrain the ability for someone to cast their ballot. To me, it would almost be that the idea behind America, we would err on the other end just because
citizens would vote.
Do we have any evidence that they aren't?
That's part of it.
Do we have any evidence they aren't in large numbers?
I mean, you have evidence of big mistakes coming from Jenna Griswold mailing lots of people that shouldn't have registered to vote.
But mailing people doesn't mean they voted. Do we have any information showing large swaths of illegals voted?
The way we secure this is to make sure they have an ID to vote.
Not necessarily, because they have to register.
5556 brings up is like, why are Dems so opposed to this? Because they know that the rules go in their favor when this happens.
I think that some of what they're talking about is silly, but what I'm curious too is why Republicans believe this is a silver bullet. Is it that we can't fake ID cards? Isn't the idea that we're going around right now raiding places of business because people applied for jobs and got jobs with fake ID cards? Isn't that the reason we're showing up? Is that they're working here illegally with fake papers?
And maybe they're voting.
And that's the idea. But then go ahead. You can check that individual's voter registration, because if you have their fake name, and they can check whether or not they voted. Yes. And that's paperwork. Yes. And here's the idea. And this is the great part about it. You're in this country, and you're living here illegally on fake documents. And you're going to risk that by casting a vote. Sure. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And one way to just make sure it's secure.
Sure.
Voter ID. But the Democrats seem really opposed to it.
And the illegal in my example would also have the ID, would have the voter ID. So it wouldn't solve the problem we're searching for. That's my point.
Join the conversation, because Bill and I will just go round and round. And we need your voice here. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Or text us on the Dan Kaplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Here's the question I have for you, and I'll read those numbers again in a second. Mike Lindell's verdict yesterday. What did you think of it? Did it put to bed a lot of these issues? Was it kind of a shrug at this point? All right, found guilty, pays a $2 million fine. Democrats out there and progressives going, we wanted big numbers, pile drive him into the ground and embarrass him forever. And they didn't get it. But at the same time, he wasn't fully cleared, found guilty. Do you blame the judge? Do you blame the jury? All this. Love to hear from you. Again, the phone number is 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Kaplis Law text line 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the Mike Lindell verdict that came down yesterday. Mike found guilty on some aspects, not liable on other aspects. I guess liable on some, not liable on others. This wasn't a criminal court, so guilty. Yeah. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to say that.
I do that too all the time.
Liable on some, not liable on others. Comer and others wanting $62.7 million. The total verdict, about $2.3 million. So, how does this make you feel about 2020, Mike Lindell, all that stuff? Let's go to the phone lines. We got Johnny, right?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Johnny.
Yeah. I met Mike Lindell, and nice guy. And I'm just wondering, and there's other radio stations around here that, they ask their audience to raise money to go after Janet Griswold, and they raised the money. And Mike said that he lost $10 million on this. And I'm thinking, somehow I think these sharks, they come around and you want to be a part of the team. You become very popular, and that's kind of like hypnotic. And so you just go with the flow. And I'm thinking, this might have been something well, he's gone with the flow, and there's a lot of emotions, and you lose money. And he had $10 million to lose, and most of us say, that's crazy. But
yeah, it is crazy. And I think there are a couple of things that just personally, and again, it's not fair to do armchair psychology, but hey, let's do armchair psychology. I think that Mike Lindell, personally, based on his reaction to what happened during the election fraud conspiracy theory, is that he felt there was almost a persecution complex where he felt persecuted and nobody was listening to him. And I believe he kind of wrapped that into some of his religious beliefs, conflating the early Christians and the election integrity conspiracy theorists, that he viewed them almost through the same lens. Again, I could be completely and totally wrong, but I think that's where he came from emotionally. And I think that financially, there are some people involved in it that viewed him as an easy mark. There are some people involved in this behind the scenes that I believe took advantage of his lack of knowledge and his giant checkbook. One of the examples of people that I might put into this is the computer expert that Lindell cited during this, where Lindell reportedly paid the guy over $1 million to get access to a computer program this guy said would prove the election fraud, and it never did. And that's what I'm worried, that there are some people behind the scenes that understood that Mike is a live fish and has a big bank account where he can write a check that has a lot of zeros, and at that time it didn't matter to him. And that's what I'm really worried about, is both how he viewed this emotionally and who got their hooks into them, because they could talk a big game on levels of stuff that he didn't understand. When he was talking about these packets of information that would go back and forth, he was talking nonsense at that point, and I think that's the problem, personally.
I'm kind of curious because, like I said, I listen to a lot of radio stations, and I've seen how they pulled some of these other hosts into getting the audience to raise money. Did you guys get these same kind of sharks coming at you saying, hey, we could do this, and then you guys said, we're not doing this?
No, we're not that big.
Yeah, not that big. Yeah, don't trust us.
we sell Kyle Clark T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. We sell Kyle Clark. That's about it. That's about where we are. They didn't ask us.
Oh, Johnny, I love you. We're going to get to you choose the news.
Thanks,
sure appreciate the call, my friend. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Time for a little levity to get you going on this Tuesday morning with You Choose the News.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where Jeff and I remember that nobody in charge is awake and we take matters into our own hands. It's America's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. I have spent moments this morning scouring the interwebs to find really dumb stories about us humans. It's remarkably easy. Gave them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why would we waste valuable airtime doing this? Well, because those in charge don't wake up until 7 o'clock. Once Jeff and I found that out, yes, just like a couple of high school seniors, we take full advantage of being left unsupervised. Note to everybody involved. Alrighty, now, here we go. Blake Olson, of course, joining us from the news department as always, and Jeff Hunt still in the studio. Gentlemen, here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, I'm TikTok rich. Headline number 2, age is just a number. Headline number 3, drunkards unite. And headline number 4, that explains a lot.
TikTok rich, please.
Yes, TikTok rich. Are you rich or are you TikTok rich? A crypto trader who creates content on TikTok was reportedly kidnapped in France late last week and held captive. His abductors were threatening him with violence unless you give us all of the access to your crypto accounts and all the money. We know it can't be traced. This is the perfect crime. Give us all your money. And the 26-year-old crypto TikToker says, I don't have any. Actually, when he showed them the balance, they went, ooh, yeah, you don't have anything at all. They were only holding him hostage for $57,000 in crypto is what they eventually negotiated down for. He still couldn't pay. So the crypto trader had $40,000 on TikTok, was released over the weekend and said, I'm sorry. And the criminals just said, yeah, he's broke. So we got to go kidnap somebody else.
That's awesome.
I know. How cool is that?
One way to prevent it.
It is. The idea of, I'm sorry, guys, you can't hold me for ransom.
Exactly.
I got no money. Yeah, sorry about that. Alrighty. Now, Blake, your choice, sir. Age is just a number. Drunkards unite, or that explains a lot.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Social media and video networks are now the main source of news in the United States. Well, that explains a lot. It's overtaken TV channels and news websites. More than half, 54% of people, according to a new survey, get news from places like Facebook, X, YouTube, overtaking TV, news sites, and other regular apps that more often do journalism. Podcaster Joe Rogan, the most widely seen personality, almost a quarter of Americans say they'd come across news or commentary from Mr. Rogan in the previous week. Now, this is a huge challenge for traditional publishers like Jeff and I, yours truly, yes. And also, populist politicians around the world are now taking advantage of this. They are increasingly able to bypass traditional journalism in favor of those friendly partisan media personalities and influencers, and then they get special access. So it becomes this symbiotic relationship that those fringe outlets or non-journalistic outlets get access to the personalities and help them push their political message, and they can access the personalities. So actually telling the truth or fact-checking is discouraged at that point. Now, despite their popularity, online influencers and personalities were named as a major source of false or misleading information as well inside the survey. 47% people say that, they lie. So this is the fun part. More than 50% of us get our news from social media and online sources, and almost 50% of us say those sources lie. This explains a lot.
No one trusts anyone. No one even trusts the mainstream media for good reason, too.
It's just
we went for 70 years just believing everything the network said was true. So
yeah. Although I would say that there is one group in the conversation that does have standards, even though we may disagree with them, and the other, no standards at all. So
I thought Walter Cronkite had standards, and now I'm learning differently.
Well, I mean, he had more than most of the TikTokers. Just saying. I'm just saying that if we're worried about journalistic integrity and standards, going to the group that has avowed to have none, probably not going to help. I'm just saying that if you were choosing two people to fight fires at your home, you may choose the group that didn't fight the fire so well, etc., but then you choose the other ones that don't know how to fight fires. I don't know. Okay, final choice this morning. Jeff, age just a number or drunkards unite?
Drunkards unite!
Drunkards unite! The Ghana Drunkards Association has more than 16 million members as putting down their foot and falling down on the ground. They are saying they're going to go on strike and not show up to work unless the price of alcohol drops in Ghana because they're tired of paying so much for their buzz. That's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. Back to you, sir.
That's the one thing I may strike about.
High alcohol prices.
You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
KNUS.